When Ann Jarvis was working to establish Mother's Day as a national event, and when her daughter picked up the mantle from her, they were not thinking about greeting cards and flowers.
Instead, the Methodist women who invented the idea in America wanted to honor mothers in a deeper way.
They were thinking about the work of women and the significant testimony that women could give about the need for peace.
Ann Reeves Jarvis organized women's clubs in the 1860s to serve suffering mothers and children.
Women came together with their sisters in their locations to respond to the needs that they could see. For Ann, she was in a coal mining part of what is now West Virginia, and she could see the needs of women and children, and she could see the effects of the economy of her day on the people that she cared for.
She started mothers' clubs, and she taught them about hydration for fevered babies, about sanitation and nutrition. Then the Civil War came along, and they put a field hospital right outside Grafton.
Ann recruited nurses for military hospitals, and after the war, formed friendship clubs to promote reconciliation.
Ann Jarvis was convinced that mothers, women, but especially mothers, had to work for peace because they could see the ravages of war in their husbands and in their sons in a way that was so focused and so clear that their voices would be powerful. And that's what's at the genesis of the current Mother's Day.
Faith was always foremost. When she was older, Ann Jarvis and her daughter Anna became members of Philadelphia's St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church.
The daughter Anna became a Sunday school teacher here at St. George's, but she's best known for the efforts she made to get Mother's Day recognized as a national observance. She and John Wanamaker, who was a famous retailer here, were the ones that got Woodrow Wilson to sign the petition.
Ann Jarvis died in 1905 before an official holiday was in place. But her daughter Anna, who was never a mother herself, stayed true to the purpose of the celebration. She envisioned Mother's Day as a time to write a personal letter to your mother, a time to send her an inexpensive carnation, a flower in which the petals hold tight like a mother's love, and a time to visit or attend church together. She later became an outspoken critic when the special day turned too commercial.
She was really aggravated at people that turned that observation into a commercial outlet. So she had a lot to say to Hallmark. She had a lot to say to the Salvation Army that started selling carnations. When she made carnations the symbol of Mother's Day, they sold for pennies, but their price soon went up to $1.50, $2 a piece because people found they could make money off of it. And her comments about Hallmark are just wonderful. She said, "How lazy can you be to buy somebody else's sentiment to hand to your mother? Like one day out of the year, sit down and tell your mother what you really think of her." And she was just furious. And I love that kind of spunk. She would have been a really interesting person to know. And I like telling the kids about her because the history of the church isn't a history of ministers. It's the people that make up the church, and I think there's such a wonderful example of that. And besides, making kids think about their mothers is always a good thing to do.
I am the current president of Brecksville United Methodist Women. All women of the church are members. The honorary member is the spouse of the minister, so that would be Russ Welch. In 1869, a group of 8 Methodist women from Boston sent a woman doctor and teacher to India, because in India, the doctors would only treat men and teachers would only teach men. 150 years later, UMW has 800,000 members around the globe. How did UMW start at Brecksville United Methodist Church? The first group was the Brecksville Methodist Ladies Aid Society, founded in 1897. They raised money to buy 2 kerosene stoves for the kitchen. In 1940, the Ladies Aid Society was changed to the Women's Society of Christian Service. When the church merged with Evangelical United Brethren in 1968, the name was changed to the United Methodist Women. Although the name changed, the function and purpose of the organization remains the same. The purpose is to be a community of women who strive to know God, develop friendships, and most important, to support missions. We raise money by bake sales and selling and cherry pies at home days. Because of COVID-19, we have not held any meetings in the last year, but we hope to start again in the fall. The meetings are on the first Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock a.m., and we have a speaker and a business meeting. What does UMW mean to me? It is a chance to get together with other women who turn faith, hope, and love into action on behalf of women and children in our communities. I would love to have you join our group, but wait, what if you can't attend a meeting during the day? It just so happens that we have an evening group that Lynn Hobzig will be telling you about.
About 7 years ago, a group of women in our church who couldn't attend the morning UMW meetings came up with an alternative, and that was the beginning of Evening Circle. This circle is all about missions. We support several outreach programs, including USO, which is dedicated to helping our troops and their families, Womankind, a maternal and prenatal care center for underprivileged young women, Rahab, an organization that fights against human trafficking in Akron and Cleveland, and Ears to You, which provides earrings for cancer patients. At one of our very first meetings, we hosted a shower in Fellowship Hall to help furnish Rahab's first safe house for adult women. Since then, they have opened a second safe house for minors. We continue to support Rahab all year through bake sales and collections of needed items for their safe houses. We also have had a baby shower for Womankind and delivered much-needed baby clothes, diapers, toys, bottles, and blankets. We make cookies each year for the Bob Hope USO Lounge at the airport, and we've even made earrings to bring some joy to women battling cancer. We also concentrate on our own congregation by making gift bags to honor our 8th grade confirmands, and care packages or gift cards to send to our college students, just to let them know that their church family is thinking of them.
For the last several years, we have sent Thinking of You packages to the college students from Brecksville United Methodist Church. These packages are sent in usually mid-November, just before the students are facing their exams. It is a nice way to let them know that we are thinking of them and offering a prayer for their success. From the thank you notes that we've received, we know the students appreciate receiving their package of goodies. This past fall, we had to change the way we let our students know that we were thinking of them. We knew a lot of the students were going to college online at home. So instead of a care package being sent to them, we had each student receive an email with a gift card to Subway. Not sure how we will be acknowledging our students this year in the fall, but it is a project that we will continue for sure.
And last but not least, we make meals for our members who need a little TLC and can't get to church as regularly as they would like to. We welcome anyone who would like to attend regularly or occasionally, and we usually meet about 6 or 7 times a year on the first Wednesday of the month, though currently we are on hiatus due to COVID. Evening Circle is a great time for fellowship, laughter, and getting to know each other a little bit better while we work together to make a difference in the lives of others. We hope you can join us when we finally gather together in person again.
Good morning. I'm here to tell you about Asbury Bremas Circle, which is a study circle and meets the second Thursday morning of each month during September through June. I'm going to insert a short video here to explain the reason for our name.
This man has been called the American saint, the prophet of the long road.
In the United States, there are towns and cities, hospitals, homes, and schools, from Maine to South Georgia and beyond, named for Methodist leader Francis Asbury.
He was a frontiersman and a pioneer. He could have given Lewis and Clark a map to follow before they embarked on their journey and told them which roads to take and which roads were dead ends.
Asbury brought Methodism to America in 1771. Over the next 45 years, he covered some 265,000 miles on horseback.
The Methodist message that he brought was that God's love can be experienced by everyone. And that once it's experienced by everyone, the Holy Spirit takes up residence in your life and makes a difference.
The son of working-class parents in England, Asbury received little formal education. He apprenticed as a metal worker and became a local lay preacher. At age 22, John Wesley appointed him to serve as a missionary among the American settlements. His became a life on the road, and Asbury never married.
We tend to think it was easy. A British Methodist traveling on his circuit could usually get to a town on the same day, go from one town to the next. When you start across the Appalachians, or even across the Potomac, you could travel days before you got to a town.
And there were more challenges in this new mission field.
There were Methodists who said, well, we need to be able to serve communion. We need to be able to do these things. No one was ordained at that point. And Wesley struggled with that, and so he's set apart Koch and others to come over to the U.S., ordain Asbury, that is one of the other leaders of the Methodist movement.
Under Bishop Asbury's direction, the Methodist Episcopal Church grew from 1,200 to 214,000 members and more than 700 ordained preachers. Among the men he ordained was Richard Allen of Philadelphia, the first African-American minister in the United States.
Someone pointed out that Asbury never really asked any of his preachers or pastors to do anything that he didn't do.
Asbury set a high standard by his own example, but the constant travel proved too much for some in his charge. He kept a book with detailed critiques of his preachers.
There would be, Jones and the word useful next to it. Peters, a baller, which means as he sings or as he preaches, he just sort of kind of yells constantly. He's a baller. Needs practice.
I mean, there were times in the conflicts in the development of the American Methodist Church in the colonial era when he could have drawn a very hard line in the sand. But he seemed to have the knowledge and insight to know that when enforcing the rules too strictly might have a negative and deadly effect on his developing the American Methodist Church. And the American Methodist Church of his legacy, by 50 to 75 years after his life, was the largest church body in America.
There's a statue of him in our nation's capital. I think it's appropriate. There's a statue here at Drew in one of our seminaries. He traveled. He spoke to a variety of people. He was comfortable talking to the upper crust, and he was comfortable talking to slaves, talking to backwoods poor people and shopkeepers. I think that stature reminds us that's where we as a church need to be, in all of these places, reaching out in all these kinds of ways.
That explains the Asbury part of our name, and Bremas is a combination of Brecksville and Methodist, so now you know more than most of us knew when we joined the circle. This is Francis Asbury, and he has a prime place in our parlor where we meet. We have studied numerous books of the Bible, and within about the last 10 years have expanded to include various topics such as prayer, grace, and forgiveness. Jenny Gee has been our study leader for the past few years and usually starts with a video about the chosen topic. This is followed by a general discussion as to our reactions and thoughts about what was presented. It is usually quite lively and informative, and sometimes leads to a whole new way of approach. Our discussions are always interesting and thought-provoking. If you were to ask what makes me keep coming back to this group every month since 1980, I would have to say that it is the love and respect that is shared among us. We are very supportive of each other and are always there to help when needed. Sometimes we have even departed from our discussion when one of us has a particular problem she is dealing with. I feel that in Asbury Bremerth Circle, we are following Christ's commandments to love our neighbor as ourselves. We warmly invite you to join us. You won't be a stranger for long.
We started making pies as a entry into the fair on the square, which is now called Home Days, as a fundraiser for the UMW. And it became a real process over the years that involved many of the members of the organization. We will make somewhere between 180 to 200 pies, and we usually make them in 4 or 5 days at 2 or 3 sessions. And the older we get, the harder it gets, but the pies are so good we just don't want to give it up. So Fran had come into our organization after she stopped working, and she started to learn how to make pies.
And not being a baker, that was a challenge for me, but the very talented UMW members, I learned how to roll out a crust, make it perfect, and that was a great experience, and I really enjoy making the pies and learning how to fill them and how to make the crust, and it's just a great friendship experience too.
It's a good fellowship activity. We all know each other pretty well now because we all have been doing it for quite a few years. And it's just fun being in the kitchen with like-minded people that are working hard for missions.